I've asked Tim to stay here because he's going to assist me this morning. So I just want to say welcome to the family. You may not know it, but we're all the Sneetches family. And there's a reminder that there are many, many paths that assist us as we are on this spiritual search. Whatever we call it, however it looks for us. But ultimately, we're all desiring that feeling of connection, that feeling of being at home within that divine spirit, a wholeness. That's what we're always looking for, one form or another. So sometimes there are messages that show up in our music and our art, messages that show up in nature. All I have to do is step outside and go, oh, yes. That's reconnected. Perhaps there are messages that you've received as you've explored the unwritten traditions in native tribes. Some of you have done that. Lots of helpful ways that reconnect with that presence, that spirit, however we name it. And a great variety of inspirational literature that has been written down through the ages. And literature and our spiritual texts. And I was reading in our current Science of Mind magazine, and Margaret Stortz was writing about simplicity, and she talked about Leonard Bernstein's Mass that he wrote in 1971. Some of you may have read that article. She said, there's an opening phrase in that song. Sing God a simple song. La-da, la-dee. Make it up as you go along. La-da, la-dee. Sing as you like to sing. God loves all simple things. And love is the simplest of all. And love is the simplest of all. And then she points out the connection. Here's Leonard Bernstein, a Jewish gentleman, writing a Roman Mass. And it's all part of the oneness. So sometimes our spiritual messages come through the simplicity of children's stories. One of my favorite stories is called Wrinkle in Time. Some of you may have read that. It was the one that really gave me a perspective about time. And they said it's like a quilt. It's all rumpled up. And on the quilt, all you see is the top of the wrinkles. So you only see part of the pattern. But in time, if you start smoothing it out, then you see the different textures and colors and designs. So he's talking about the different levels of time. Oh, I've got that. I understand that. Well, last week we talked about the spiritual teacher, Dr. Seuss. Some of you were here. We read the story, Oh, the Places You'll Go, and the three primary messages were, oh, we have limitless freedom and choice. We hear that all the time in Science of Mind churches, don't we? And use your inner guidance. It's always there. Just turn to it and it will assist you. And then that there's an ultimate highest good for us. Well, today, our spiritual principles are coming from the Sneetches. The Sneetches. Number 1. Now, the star-belly Sneetches had bellies with stars. The plain-belly Sneetches had none upon theirs. Those stars weren't so big. They were really so small, you might think such a thing wouldn't matter at all. But because they had stars, all the star-belly Sneetches would brag, we're the best kind of Sneetch on the beaches. With their snoots in the air, they would sniff and they'd snort. We'll have nothing to do with the plain belly sort. And whenever they met some, whenever they were walking, they'd hike right on past them without even talking. When the star-belly children went out to play ball, could a plain belly get in the game? Not at all. You could only play if your bellies had stars. And the plain-bellied children had none upon theirs. When the star-belly Sneetches had Frankfurter roasts, or picnics, or parties, or marshmallow toasts, they never invited the plain-belly Sneetches. They left 'em out cold in the dark of the beaches. They kept them away, never let them come near. And that's how they treated them year after year. Then one day, it seems, while the plain-belly Sneetches were moping and doping alone on the beaches, just sitting there wishing their bellies had stars, a stranger zipped up in the strangest of cars. "My friends," he announced in a voice clear and keen, "my name is Sylvester McMonkey McBean, and I've heard of your troubles. I've heard you're unhappy, but I can fix that. I'm the fix-it-up chappie. I've come here to help you. I have what you need, and my prices are low, and I work at great speed, and my work is 100% guaranteed." Then quickly, Sylvester Monkey McBean put together a very peculiar machine, and he said, "You want stars like a star-belly Sneetch? My friends, you can have them for $3 each. Just pay me your money and hop right aboard." So they clambered inside. Then the big machine roared, and it clunked, and it bonked, and it jerked, and it burked, and it bopped them about, but the thing really worked. When the plain-belly Sneetches popped out, they had stars. They actually did. They had stars upon theirs. Then they yelled at the ones who had stars at the start. "We're exactly like you. You can't tell us apart. We're all just the same now, you snooty old smarties. And now we can go to your Frankfurter parties." "Good grief," groaned the ones who had stars at the start. "We're still the best Sneetches, and they are the worst. But now how in the world will we know," they all frowned, "if which kind is what or the other way round?" Then up came McBean with a very sly wink, and he said, "Things are not quite as bad as you think. So you don't know who's who? That is perfectly true, but come with me, friends. Do you know what I'll do? I'll make you again the best Sneetches on beaches, and all it will cost you is $10 eaches." "Belly stars are no longer in style," said McBean. "What you need is a trip through my star-off machine. This wondrous contraption will take off your stars so you won't look like Sneetches who have them on theirs." And that handy machine, working very precisely, removed all the stars from their tummies quite nicely. Then with snoots in the air, they paraded about. They opened their beaks and they let out a shout, "We know who is who. Now there isn't a doubt. The best kind of Sneetches are Sneetches without." Then, of course, those with stars got frightfully mad. To be wearing a star was now frightfully bad. Oh, then, of course, old Sylvester McMonkey McBean invited them into his star-off machine. And then, of course, as you probably guess, things really got into a horrible mess. All the rest of the day on those wild, screaming beaches, the fix-it-up chappie kept fixing up Sneetches. Off again, on again, in again, out again. Through the machine they raced round and about again. Changing their stars every minute or two, they kept paying money. They kept running through until neither the plane nor the star bellies knew whether this one was that one, or that one was this one, or which one was what one, or what one was who. And then, when every last cent of their money was spent, the fix-it-up chappie packed up and he went. And he laughed as he drove in his car up the beach. They'll never learn. No, you can't teach a Sneetch. But McBean was quite wrong. I'm quite happy to say that the Sneetches got really quite smart on that day. The day they decided that Sneetches are Sneetches, and no kind of Sneetch is the best on the beaches. That day, the Sneetches forgot about stars and whether they had one or not upon theirs. What can we learn from the Sneetches? I don't know about you, but there have been times when I was comparing myself to others. Really? As a matter of fact, sometimes when I was a teenager, I was comparing myself against others, and then I didn't want to be like that, so I did something completely opposite, which meant I was still making them impact my choices. Well, I'm not like that. Sometimes about our possessions, the way we look, our cosmetic surgeries multiple times, the things we can't change and the things we can change. We get to look at all of that. Are we comparing ourselves about our lifestyles or our possessions or our houses or our cars? Are we always unhappy with where we are and looking to have it different out of a comparison? Not out of our true freedom of choice and who we are as unique individuals. Sometimes we even put on disguises. Well, if you don't really know who I am, then maybe I'll be okay. Whether it's a mask or pretending like we're being. I said to somebody recently, you know, I'm at the age where I don't care what people think. And that's only partly true. I wouldn't show up here as a speaker for you in my house cleaning clothes. Yeah, I wouldn't do that. But sometimes we get caught up in that. I'm not okay if I'm not like that other being. We have teenagers. Oh, I couldn't possibly wear that shirt. It has to look like this, or it has to have that label in it. That sort of thing. Some biblical reminders help us to get back to that center place. In Matthew it says, "Judge not, that you may not be judged. For with the same judgment you will be judged." What we put out comes back. What goes around comes around. Judge not according to appearances. Do we get caught up in how many pounds, how tall, how short, the color of the skin, the lifestyle, all of that? And then there's the golden rule. Most of us grew up knowing do unto others as you would have them. Somebody years ago gave me a golden rule that's a ruler. And it actually has the golden rule from 11 of the world's living religions. I'd like to just share a couple with you. Let's see. In Judaism, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. Sound familiar, right? Hinduism, men gifted with intelligence, that would be women too, should always treat others as they themselves wish to be treated. Hinduism. Buddhism, part of it says, treat them as he treats himself, and by being as good as their word. Islam. No one of you is a believer until he loves for his brother what he loves for himself. Confucianism. I didn't even know Confucianism existed till I was in college. Do not unto others which you would not they should do unto you. Either do it or don't do it. World religions. I think there's a theme there. The Sneetches were having a little trouble with that golden rule at the first, right? Well, you can't come to our Frankfurter roasts. They finally got it about unity and oneness. And that lived happily ever after. Dr. Seuss usually works that out, right? They finally came to that transformation. The other stuff was just changes, right? Stars on, stars off, stars. Put on this shirt, take off that shirt. Those are all changes. The transformation is when we get it inside to such a level that the way that we see things, the way that we feel about things, gives us a different lens. It is as though we're putting on different glasses. We're listening in a different way. That is what transformation is about, changing the form, not just trading them off. Some of you have heard me say, years ago, my son was about 18, 19, doing what 18, 19-year-old boys do, and driving his mother crazy. Yeah, I'll take out the garbage. You know, any of you have raised, I won't ask for a show of hands, but I think you're nodding and smiling. You understand. I went away for a long weekend training. One weekend. I came back, and I thought my son had a walkabout. My son was different. I went away for the weekend. He was different when I came home. What happened? I had a change of perspective. Not about him, but about the way life is. Thank goodness. And that was sort of the beginning. Ernest Holmes, the founder of religious science, said, God is all, in all. God is in everything. That means God is in everything, everyone. And if that's so, then what he says is a recognition of the unity of the individual, the spirit, back of, in, and through all. It's all one. In Psalms, behold how good and pleasant it is when brothers dwell in unity. Islam, hold fast all together to God's rope and be not divided among yourselves. And in Buddhism, happy is the unity of the Sangha, the unity of the community. That's part of what brings people to communities and centers like this. Because there's that sense of the inclusion, the sense of coming together, an alignment at some level, even as we are expressing our uniqueness, even as we are exploring who we are on this pathway. There's that sense of support, that sense of connection and of community. I invite you just for a moment to close your eyes as I read this little segment from Ernest Holmes and just see if it resonates with you. I behold in thee God's image. In thee, my friend, I see God. And through you, I feel the presence of Spirit. I see in the hand that gives God's hand. And in the voice that speaks of love, I hear God speak. For God's life has gone out into all places. And from the highest to the lowest, all partake of the spiritual nature. For God is it all, over all, and through all. I perceive that God is in all people. Thank you. Let's celebrate. Let us celebrate our individualized expressions, even as we align with that. Every voice I hear is the voice of Spirit. Everyone I see is an expression of Spirit. Every hand in action I see is a hand of Spirit. We may all be Sneetches on beaches, and we can and are transforming our lives. So I invite you to affirm with me, I am transforming fear into knowledge. I am transforming separation into inclusion. I am transforming separation into inclusion. I am transforming judgment into compassion. I am transforming compassion into compassion. I am transforming and celebrating unity. I am transforming and celebrating unity. And so it is. Let all the Sneetches celebrate right here on the beaches. So it is.